Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Astra Nebula. If this is your first time coming over to the channel, welcome. If this is a returning subscriber, returning viewer, welcome as well. Today we're going to be going over and discussing this week at Bungie, the weekly tab here for Destiny 2, and we're also going to go over how I would rework Trials of Osiris, since Bungie likes fucking with the sauce. So first things first, let's go ahead and jump right into this week at Bungie. So, what we have at this week at Bungie, we're replacing the flawless pool. We're about to hit the fever pitch of spookiness. Ghosts are around every corner, and we don't mean the friendly type that revives you after taking too much damage. Sadly, that means that it's almost time to start packing up the tower decorations, saying goodbye to Ava Levante. It's the final week of Festival of the Lost. You have until reset Tuesday, November 2nd to finish your books, eat your candy, and wrap up any unfinished business you have with the event. We've recently fixed up some issues with candy and spectral page drops from public events and Trials of Osiris. So if you're still jamming out some pages to finish your book, don't sleep on those activities. Throw on a mask, eat some candy, and earn some rewards. While you're extracting whatever loot you can from the Headless One, Trials of Osiris will also start up tomorrow and run until Festival of Lost ends at reset as usual. We gotta fix so you'll still earn pages even if you lose the match. And that's not all we're changing. Getting into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking to today. So, Trials matchmaking changes. They're fucking with the sauce again. Which, the sauce is the formula. That's all that means. Thank you, Italian. The last few weeks of Trials of Osiris have been excuse me. The last few weeks of Trials of Osiris have been a bit quieter in terms of changes. This was by design. We wanted to give players a few weekends of steady play before making any more significant changes or testing out another labs weekend. This gave our teams some great data for how Trials changes are doing, how players are engaging with the activity, and what we could prioritize changing in the future. As a recap of stats from the last few weeks shows everything to be steady too. Matchmaking times are consistent with past weeks. Blowout rates drop significantly weekend over weekend. This is consistent with lower skill players not playing as much. That's a little bit of a problem. Average hours played per player remains consistent across skill levels. Overall player counts went down each week. But that is expected during the portion of this season and is consistent with past Trials and Iron Banner performance. That could be both a good thing and a bad thing. We still don't see any evidence of widespread flawless card resets to avoid flawless plural. Less than 0.5% of cards played reset while still flawless and above 3 wins. Even still, the impetus to do this should be removed starting this week. More on that below. Now we look to freelance. Last weekend we gave players a strictly solo queue option in Trials, which was a good thing. We entered the week with some assumptions on how the population could split, what happened to matchmaking times, and a few questions to offer freelance options in the future. Here's a quick recap from the team on how things went, what we learned, and what we're thinking about for the future. Freelance. So this past weekend, we opened up freelance queue so that solo players could consistently play against other groups of solos. How'd that feel? We had over 1 million, that's a big number, games played in each playlist this weekend, with slightly more games played in the base Trials of Osiris playlist. Our average hours plays for lower skill players is up quite a bit over the last few weeks, while the average top end has almost been the same hours played. Interestingly, players who played in a fire team some of the time and solo some of the time played almost 3 times as long this weekend as players who either played exclusively solo or in a fire team. Well, I'm going to tell you why that is. Is that some people have work, some people have school, some people have lives. You can't expect everybody to jump into a fire team or expect everybody to be solo queue. That should have been expected. And then you can see, you know, the average, the time spread, which it is going up. It did dip below 4 and 5, but after the first week, they really truly fucked with the sauce. And it recovering now is better, but it's still not the best. Player numbers: 244,000 freelance, so solo queue, excuse me, 244,000, 250,000 solo queue exclusive, which only players, 120,000 fire team exclusive players, so that's 2 or more players in a game. 25% of the player base out of the million games went flawless, lower than any revamp week. Excuse me. Likely Fallout matches being fairer. If it doesn't drop below 20% a week, the Lighthouse should still feel attainable. Average matchmaking times were consistently around 50 seconds for full fire teams and solos, which is good. And regular were 100 seconds for duos. It's gonna happen. The Sunday Flawless Pool adds about 10 seconds to the Flawless player matchmaking, and we're seeing some worrying spikes in matchmaking times for some of the smaller sub-pools post-Flawless split. The overall blowout rate, games that ended in 5-0, was almost as low as our post-revamp week, when the Flawless Pool went active Friday afternoon at 27.8%, which I assume was the flawless rate at that time. This was powered by the significant numbers of fire teams versus fire teams, so 3v3, and solo versus solo match, which had 25% blowout rates. So about 30%, you know, within the 4 days. Dropped off Sunday, significant. I'd say significantly, and kind of bottom there. So this is between 2 weeks. And the data is actually pretty consistent. 5-0 games between freelance and base, which is separated by the slash. So 25% for freelance, 30% for base, 26%, and this is going degradation between 5-0 to 5-4. 26% to 25%, 5-2 games 20% to 18, 5-3 15% versus the 14% we'll call it, 5-4 12 versus 11%. So it's a pretty even spread across the board for match outcomes, which we'll discuss later on. One thing we aren't happy with is team balance, and we've noticed how Solo Plays this isn't doing a great job balancing 2 teams, where there isn't any fire team mismatches. For Trials, it's currently just picking teams randomly. It's gonna happen if you're a blueberry going into a duo or a blueberry with 2 other blueberries. We are going to be looking very carefully at how teams are selected over the next few weeks, and hopefully have a better balance the next time freelance rolls around. This is one downside of not using skill-based matchmaking in Trials. In situations where skill would be helpful to balance 2 teams of solo players, it isn't even a data point the system's looking at. Speaking of which, so they're going to go more in depth here. We like the overall outcome and vibe of freelance queue, and both playlists seem to have a viable amount of players. We're looking at running freelance occasionally for the remainder of this season, season 15, but are still trying to determine what feels right. So they're going to be working on it. Long term, we are exploring some single playlist solutions, preferential matchmaking in full teams against other full teams, duo plus solo, and another duo plus solo. But we haven't specified a realistic target for release for this yet, but it will not be not be prior to Season 16. Flawless Pool changes. The Flawless Pool, which have been currently enabling Sunday at reset time, has some very positive benefit. It raises overall match quality, blowout rates. Significantly, it raises the overall win rate of solo players. However, it has some drastic downsides. For players who struggle to manage to just barely go flawless, it is a steep cliff then only to play against other players who have gone flawless that week. It incentivizes behavior that is at odds with the mode and the reward system, like resetting a flawless 6-win ticket to keep getting easier matches, but objectively worse rewards. It also creates social friction where players need to decide between playing with friends or playing for rewards. Lastly, the timing. 10 a.m. Pacific on Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. BST. Is awkward if you live anywhere but the Americas. Starting tomorrow, we are rolling out a new system and leaning into weekly performance metrics. Whenever you match trials, in addition to trying to match with people with the same number of card wins, you will also attempt to match with people who have roughly the same number of overall wins for the weekend. If you can't find anyone to match with, it will eventually expand out to find you a less similar match. This is skill-based matchmaking. For PvP gods who go flawless 10 times a weekend, they will end up matching with other players who have, for example, 70 plus wins on their cards no matter how they got them. For the average team who gets luckily flawless in on Friday or Saturday on their first card, they will be matching against players, with 7 wins no matter how they got them. We are hoping this will give us many benefits of the Flawless Pool system, somewhat fairer matches without significant downsides. Specifically, there should be no major inflection point where everything is smooth prior to a win, and then everything is overly challenging after. This allows us to remove the Flawless Pool. It does have a potential downside: longer matchmaking times. We think there's a reasonable trade-off here between match quality and matchmaking time. Agreed. That's big. That should immediately be a priority. Average trials matchmaking time currently sits at 50 seconds, close to a minute. Over the next few weekends, we're going to be looking into how much matchmaking time goes up and how much match quality. So, I'm going to interject here. If you're a 10-time flawless weekend winner, and you're going against a 70 plus win card, you're the top 1% of players. The system should detect that and should recognize, oh, these players right here, put them against each other. Now, that doesn't change up matchmaking variation, but that's just how competitive works. If you're the top 1% of players, you're going to go against the other top 1% of players. The outcomes of previous non-labs week were, and you can kind of see that right there. And in an ideal world, we want to get each of those numbers as close to 20% as possible, but we'd rather see more 5-4, 5-3 outcomes than 5-0, 5-1. Agreed. As always, we're going to be listening closely to your feedback, as looking at aggregated stats, continuing tuning matchmaking for trials to strive for the best experience possible. Okay. Then it goes into the new community manager. By the way, congratulations to them for getting hired. So that brings us up to this right here. Let me go ahead and hide my webcam. And let's go into more of what I kind of drew out. So, like every game, there is a ranking system. And within every ranking system, there is skill-based matchmaking, there's rewards, there's pools, there's incentives to bring the player back every weekend or every day, depending on, what game you are. I brought up some examples here from very popular ranked games, such as Overwatch League or Overwatch Competitive, and how they structure things. You've got your basic system, your bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, master, grandmaster, and then you're put in the top 500 players. So this is kind of, basically going over what other games have. I believe this is want to say Rocket League with the bronze to Grandmaster. We have Rainbow Six Siege and how their system works. So you've got a total of 6 different, 6 different ranks, which go from Copper to Master. And in between those ranks is a different MMR split, which determines who you get match made with and who you get match made against. And then, of course, another very popular game, Counter-Strike Go, which in essential is sort of like Rainbow Six. So if you're silver, of course you get matched with, the silver guys, gold against the gold guys, and then your top of the top guys. So, knowing how that works and knowing how other games do it is big. It keeps the competitive pool alive. It keeps players coming back because who doesn't want to be, the global elite? Who doesn't want to be a master? Who doesn't want to be Grandmaster? And who doesn't want to be the top 500% of players, right? Oops. So what I've devised, is a ranking system, a rule set, and a reward set for a total rework of the competitive system that we know as Trials of Osiris. Cool. So we have our ranks, right? They're based off the engrams plus, the master rank, the rank that everybody is going to want to achieve. So we start off with our common. We go to uncommon. We go to rare. We go to legendary rank. We go to exotic rank, and then we go to champion of Osiris. So each rank is represented by a god that has been noticed in game in one way or another, or has been a part of Trials, because Trials notices the Egyptian gods. So for our common rank, we have the god Thoth, or Thoth, depending on how you want to pronounce that. He's the god of wisdom, knowledge, and writing. Our uncommon sigil, or god rank, is the goddess Isis, who's the goddess of health, the moon, and resurrection. Our rare rank is the goddess Bastet, who is the goddess of protection and warfare. We see a lot of Bastet within the Dreaming City with the cats. So that's why Bastet's in here. Our legendary rank is actually the Hic-Jacet, or the His-Jacet, whatever you want to call it, which can be represented by 2 gods, which is Set, or Seth, who's the god of chaos and storms. And then we have Anubis, who could be the other god, who is the god of death after Set kills Osiris. So there's 2 gods of death, depending on what era of Egyptian mythology you're looking into. The exotic rank is the Scarab Heart, which is represented by the god Capri, which we see in Capri's Sword and Capri's Sting. He's the god of protection, the god of sunrise, and represents the cycle of life. And then the champion of Osiris. We have the Eye of Osiris rank, which Osiris is the first god of death and god of the underworld. So, how do these ranks work? Cool. So the Trials rank, Trials of Osiris, which is your rank game mode, happens every weekend. We're going to keep that formula. Uses the current card system, so I kept that in mind because I think that's something that Destiny does uniquely. We have the common rank, 3, which takes 3 flawless wins to earn the next rank, which is uncommon. At this point, after hitting those 3 flawless wins, you'll earn 2 low-end rewards, plus an emblem at the end of the month or the end of the season. Then we move on to our uncommon. It takes 4 flawless wins to earn the rank of rare. You will get 3 low-end rewards and an emblem at the end of the season. Then we go on to our rare rank, which is 5 flawless wins to enter the legendary rank. You'll be rewarded with 3 mid-tier rewards and an emblem at the end of the season. Moving on to our legendary rank, which takes 6 flawless wins to earn the exotic rank, 3 high-end rewards, a lighthouse voucher, and an emblem at the end of the season. We have the exotic rank, which takes 7 flawless wins to earn Champion of Osiris, and 3 high-end rewards. 1 exotic will be earned, as well as a lighthouse voucher and the emblem at the end of the season. And then we have our champion rank, our grandmaster rank, our top 500 player rank, whatever you want to call it, Champion of Osiris, which only notarizes the top 777 players only. You get 3 high-end rewards, 1 exotic, a lighthouse voucher, you get the emblem at the end of the season, and you also get the title Champion of Osiris at the end of Season X. Now going on to the rule set. You must be 1320 to enter Trials of Osiris. This is a light bat-based matchmaking system. We're going to keep that. If you are under 1320, you cannot enter. This keeps players that haven't hit the soft cap or the pinnacle cap out of matchmaking, creating more fair matchmaking results. And this will be a best of 1 matchmaking as current. Elimination with a maximum of 5 revives per team. So that way it gets rid of unlimited revives and you have to use your revives sparingly. It will be a 120-second round timer, which equates to 2 minutes. The round overtime is determined by a capture point at the center of the map, as it is currently. I think that is one of the best features that Bungie has decided, so that games don't end in a draw. And if they do end in a trade kill, then of course you go on to the next round until the game is won by one or the other team. It'll be a 5-game placement. Each game has 3 rounds that are 90 seconds each, and the map is chosen randomly. So, it goes on to map vote, which is between 3 seasonal maps. Bungie can determine, how many seasonal maps, whether it be 3, whether it be 5, or whether it be every map available in the game. Only 3 will appear, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege does, or like Call of Duty does. Players will be able to say, hey, we want this map banned, we want that map banned. And if both teams decide to ban one map, or it comes down to that, then a map will be chosen at random, minus the one that both teams banned. Weekly exotic, which is exotic per class and exotic weapon, will be determined by player vote. So, after Trials is done on reset day, say Bungie puts out a poll. What do you want to see banned this weekend? And whatever exotic is most selected by the community cannot be used for that Trials of Osiris weekend. Boons or passages, depending if you're a veteran or a current player, will stay resolute to how they are currently. So if you have bonus lighthouse rewards, say you're at legendary, then those legendary lighthouse rewards go to exotic, those exotic go to the Champion of Osiris rank, and Champion of Osiris lighthouse bonus reward go double up, so you get 2 instead of 1. Flawless Mercy, or the Flawless plus 1 win, stays the same, and the Mercy stays the same. Reset card. You go to the start of the previous acquired rank, so this gets rid of smurfing and D-ranking to fuck with lower ranked players. I think this is very important to keep players, playing, progressing, and learning how to play at the rank that they are at in order to get better and in order to get to that next level. Quit outs. So let's talk about quit outs. Quit outs is basically if you leave due to you third partying the other team, or due to you getting blown out, whatever may have you, you just quit, right? Quit outs result in leave sanctions, and these are account wide. So your first quit out is a 2-hour lockout or a 2-hour soft ban from Trials of Osiris. Your second offense is a weekend lockout. Your third is a seasonal lockout, and your fourth is a permaban from Trials of Osiris. Now, I don't know how Bungie would do this, if it would be just season, if it'd be weekend. However Bungie decides to do that is up to them. Network errors such as denial of service, Bungie service, or ISP errors such as brownouts, blackouts, or ISP maintenance can be detected by Bungie, therefore the penalty is negated. Voucher usage cannot refarm the rewards, and it negates the next tier rewards. So, say you hit Legendary, and you decide to go open the chest of the Lighthouse. You cannot open the Lighthouse chest at Exotic or Champion tier, because you decided to open it up at Legendary tier. The reason why I wanted to do this is it promotes players to get to that next step, to learn how to be more competitive, and it gives players that choice. Do I want to do this now, or should I do this later? The Lighthouse rewards per tier increase can only be earned once per character, weekly per character. So that means you have the ability to go from, Legendary tier rewards to Exotic tier rewards to Champion tier rewards in the Lighthouse 3 times every week, and only 3 times a week. That way you can't farm the Lighthouse. I think this system would be beneficial to Destiny as a whole, and stuck with, so that way Bungie doesn't, mess with the sauce, and there's something more consistent toward a more competitive style of Destiny 2. Bungie, I would assume, has been pushing more for a competitive style, seeing that they've been, trying new things out, which isn't a whole bad thing. That's why we have labs, but to do it on a week-to-week basis or to continuously mess with stuff is going to detract the player count weekly. Now, if you have something like this, or, this, whatever have you, you're going to have players come back weekend after weekend trying to chase for those top tier rewards, trying to chase for that title, and try to get to that top level of gameplay. I highly recommend Bungie go this way for those reasons, and to find a way to where they can home in on a more structured version of a competitive game mode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section, and we'll see you guys next time. Adios.